Everyone, welcome to Analytics Cloud. I am Gaurav, and so this is the part two of Um, Hi everyone, welcome to Analytics Cloud. I am Gaurav, and this is a part two of before you build pipelines, you should understand the business for data engineering, right? So in our previous video, we talked about business understanding, why loyalty programs are actually behavioral data strategies, right? And it's just not the reward system. So we understood that, and we in this particular video, right, we just want to go one level deeper. Okay, so let's say we are saying that loyalty is something which is driven by the behavioral data, right? So if if the loyalty is on the top of the behavior of the customers, then it should start with some kind of a transactions, right? So now in this video we will go one level deeper. Okay, so let's say for example, if we are not talking about any transaction, so there won't be any revenue, there won't be any frequency of the customers that who is arriving, there won't be any campaign related attributes, there won't be any loyalty intelligence, right? So today I'm going to show you what a real enterprise transaction tables looks like. So I'm currently using a sample data just for the confidentiality, but the attributes are the real ones which is actually being used in the enterprise transaction table. And more importantly, I will explain what each column actually means, why does it exist, and how it connects to business metric. Okay, so most of the people sees a transaction receipt as just like a simple bill, right? But in an enterprise system, a transaction is a structured financial event, right? Where it will contain some of the informations that is related to the customer. So it will be having a customer identity information. Then it will also have the store related information, right? If I am visiting to any Shell fuel station, which particular fuel station did I visit? So that, or let's say if in that particular Shell I bought some let's say coffee or some any purchase that I did, right? So related to that particular store, the information will be there. Then we'll also have the product classification in the transaction table, right? And we might have some kind of a discount details, some revenue details, some audit timestamp when is a transaction has happened. And when all of these millions of records, because there will be millions of transactions that would be happening, so once all of these records are processed correctly, they will finally become an executive dashboard, right? So in this video we will break down a real transaction structure and understand how revenue data is engineered at scale. Okay, so let's start with the transaction table. And what I've done here is I've created a temporary view of a transaction table, and these are the values that I'm actually inserting into this table or this view is a temporary view. And what I've done is, I have taken few different scenarios. We will be discussing about these columns and the values that we are talking about, and what are the different scenarios that we have taken here. Okay, so let's just start with this, and hopefully what I'll do is maybe let me just scroll down and first start with the columns level details here. Okay, just to understand what are these columns, what are their meanings and their significance, and then later we will talk about how do we use them in the business terms, and or how business would be requiring this particular attribute. Okay, so the very first column that you see here is receipt details ID, right? So what does this mean? So receipt detail ID is nothing but just kind of a primary key or a unique identifier for each item that is inside your receipt. Okay, so if I just add like a comment to this, it is nothing but a unique identifier for each item line inside a receipt. Okay, now let's come to the check-in ID. So now we have another ID. Okay, before I go to the check-in ID, let's do one thing. Maybe just for the folks that who is totally new to this domain, right? Let us just give few examples also. So why do we have this receipt details, right? So let's say, for example, I went to a Shell store. Okay, I might I might fuel some, let's say some 10 liters or 20 liter of diesel. Okay, and then let's say or petrol whatsoever, and then I also visited to the small store that Shell will have, and I I might buy some, uh, some anything like a cold drink or any food packets or something like that, right? Coffee, sandwich, chips, something. So for each items that I buy, all of those items will be stored as a separate record. Okay, so if I'm buying a coffee, there will be one record for coffee. If I'm buying a sandwich, there will be one record for sandwich. If I'm buying any chips, then there will be one record for the chip. But the all these items will come in one receipt that I get. I will just get one bill which will having all these three items, right? So in that case, receipt detail ID would be just one, which would be unique, but it will be having three different records for three different items. Okay, so basically whenever you it will be used for some kind of a deduplication whenever you are doing some incremental load, right? So this is the basically the use of the receipt details ID. Okay, now let's come to the check-in ID. The check-in ID is nothing but it is like a visit session identifier. Okay, so some source systems, actually some system will capture loyalty check-in before payment. Okay, uh, let's say for an example, in the last video we discussed about Shell app, right? Or any of the fuel station apps, the company apps. So what you'll do, if I am if I've already registered to this that app, I've I must have given my uh, PII data to it. I might have given my name, my email ID, or my phone number, right? So now I am basically not anonymous to that app anymore, right? Instead, I have given my all of the information. I have registered, so I'm kind of a registered customer, which also called as a loyalty customer, right? So there might be possibility that I am a loyalty customer. I went to a fuel station. I scan my ID at the pump or at the fuel station. So once I scan it, what it will do is it will basically add any points for the transaction that I'm supposed to make. Right? Let's say if I have, let's say I've purchased item of 5,000 rupees. So there will be particular point that would be associated to 5,000 rupees transaction. And let's say I scan my loyalty ID and that particular point will be given to my account. Right? So once I scan it and then let's say after the scanning, I let's say complete the payment. After scanning, I completed the payment. So check-in ID will link all these events, right? It will try to link a visit that has happened, what is the campaign exposure, and what is the transaction that has happened. So that is nothing but the check-in ID. Okay. Now the third point is user ID. User ID is nothing but loyalty member identifier, right? So if If there is any record that is getting inserted to this table and it is having a user ID, definitely that user ID means that it is someone who is already registered and it is a loyalty customer. Correct. Let's say there might be few people who have not registered. A lot of people would have not registered Shell app, right? Many people doesn't know about it. Simply they are still going to the Shell, but they doesn't know about the loyalty program that it is offering. So they won't have any user ID to it. So for those customers, whatever the record that is getting from the source to this is will be having no ID for it, because there won't be any user ID to those particular users, right? And hence those user ID will be null. Okay, how is this data coming? How is the data for user ID is coming null or user ID from the source? That is a different aspect which we will look into it later. But currently we are talking about the transaction table, how it looks like. Okay, so basically we have two scenario here. One is the user who is a loyalty user, the other is user who is anonymous user. So what is the engineering impact? Mostly, like, let's say we could figure it out how many of the customers are active, or we could just find out the count of distinct non-null user IDs, right? So those are the active customers. So if identify, we basically, if there is any identity stitching fails, like loyalty revenue undercounted and all, this could be an issue because of null and all the stuff. So now let's talk about the receipt date. Okay, receipt date is nothing but the transaction date when this transaction has happened. Okay? It will be used in monthly reporting, like for a month, how many visits happened, like a visit frequency, then some kind of a campaign attribution windows and like that. Similarly, we have a local receipt date. What is local receipt date? Local receipt date is nothing but it stores local time zone data, right? Because different stores we might be in different location and they have their own local time zone, right? So let's say transaction at 11:30 p.m. CST. So if I'm talking about UTC, it will become the next day, right? So without the local date, month in reporting, if we do, it might break, right? So we have a local receipt date and the global receipt date kind of thing. Okay. Now let's come to the POS type. What is POS type? So this is important. POS type is nothing but the channel source. Okay. Channel source, as in, let's say there would be some retail POS systems, kiosk, mobile, fuel pumps. So all of these are the POS types. So let's say, for example, if you go to any store, right? There will be let's say if you want to pay by card, there will be a machine that they will give, that they will insert your card, and they might ask you to provide your PIN. So that machine is nothing but the POS type, point of sale. Okay, so that is something which would be generating the data, and there will be an architecture that will be built which would be reading the data from that POS systems and will be bringing that data from that POS to some kind of a target DB from where you are loading this data and you are reading this data, right? So that is nothing but the POS system. Okay, this and the next part is nothing but the revenue ID. Okay, so what is revenue ID? Revenue ID is nothing but like it's like kind of a finance classification fields. Okay, so revenue ID, revenue code, both are like a financial kind of a classification fields where, let's say, for example, if I'll give you, let's say, if I want to find a scenario for the fuel revenue or merchandise revenue mapped to what account, so those kind of data is related to the revenue ID and the revenue code. Once we look into, once we'll explore, or once we'll get into more depth of this projects, we will talk about this further. Okay, so let me just add it meanwhile. Now let's come to the is fuel item flag. So just flag just indicates whether it is a fuel or not. So that particular transaction, whether that is a fuel transaction or it's a non-fuel transaction. Why? Because if I went to a Shell fuel station, I might do a fuel transaction where I might not go to the Shell store, but instead I just fuel up my car and then no, I just left. Right? So that the only one transaction that I did was for the fuel transaction. Now, if I let's say if I go to the Shell and I just went to the store, I didn't do any kind of a fuel purchase, and I simply bought some sandwich or something like that. So that is a non-fuel transaction. So even there might be possibility that in one particular transaction for one receipt, there might be fuel and non-fuel transactions both. Correct. So now, if let's say if there's a fuel transaction that has happened, so we have another flag which is valid fuel VIP transaction. So it just check whether that fuel transaction that has happened, whether was it a loyalty transaction or not for the fuel. Okay. Then similarly, we have other you know column which is subtotal amount and then earnable amount. Subtotal amount is what? It is the amount before discount. Total amount before discount. Okay. So this is the subtotal amount, and then we have earnable amount. Okay, and what is earnable amount? Earnable amount is the portion eligible for the loyalty points. Okay, so let's try and understand this. So let's say if there is any customer who bought any products, so that or let's say he also did the fueling and then he bought some products. So the total amount that for that bill will be generated would be the subtotal amount without any discount. Okay, and this earnable amount is the portion eligible for the loyalty points. So let's say if there would be any gift card or tobacco may not let's say basically a few products which might not earn any points, right? There are few products which earn points. Let's say if you there might be some programs that would be running. So let's say if you fuel this much you'll get this much of points. Similarly, for there would be few products which is not eligible for any kind of a loyalty points, right? Now similarly, coming to the transaction number. The transaction number is nothing but the store receipt number. Okay? so so a store basically references the transaction number. So it is basically used for audit or refund reconciliation, or basically if there is some um, customer who has returned any item or done some kind of a transaction. For everything there will be a transaction that would be recorded. Okay, similarly we have a store number. So store number is nothing but it's like a store identifier, so which uniquely identifies which store this transaction has happened. Now let's come to this. These are pretty simple. Item name, so name of the product that you would have purchased, and then the quantity of the product that you would have taken. Similarly, now you have the item price, right? So what is the item price? Item price is original price before discount. So you might see, right? We have item price, we have subtotal amount, also total amount before discount, right? Both are different because item price is specifically for that particular one item that is there, and but the subtotal amount would be for the entire. Let's say there would be let's say if I'm buying a Lay's chips, right? So if I'm buying 5 Lay's chips, so for one Lay's chips, if the price is rupees 20, so the item price for that particular Lay's chips is 20, and the item quantity is 5. The 20 into 5, that is 100, is the subtotal amount. Got it? So now let's move to the other one, which is discount name. So discount name is nothing but the promotion's name. So uh, like different time or different months, right? company will keep on running some kind of a promotions, right? Like let's say New Year promotion, Christmas promotion, Diwali promotion, Holi promotion, like that. So there will be different promotions that would be applied. So based on that, you might have discount name or the coupon's name or fuel discount or which is related to the campaign that company is currently running, so that it could figure it out. The discount that has been given was part of which promotion, correct? Then let's say you might have discount price. So what is the discount value that was given, correct? This is easy. Then we have item sales amount. So what is the final revenue amount that got generated, right? So this might be used into further revenue dashboards, monthly reporting, and all those details, correct? Similarly, we have item type. What is item type? It is like an operational category, whether it is inside, fuel, outside, non-fuel, all those stuff. So what is inside and what is outside? So basically, so if I'm talking about any purchase that has happened from any store, that is an inside sale. If I'm I haven't purchased anything from the store, but I have done you know um I've just did some, let's say, fuel refill, so that is an outside transaction. So inside is a non-fuel, because obviously inside we cannot have the fuel station in fuel, so it will be inside non-fuel, and then outside it will be fuel transaction. Similarly, we have product type, right? So higher level grouping, basically it is like that was more granular and it is like on a higher level. So like for fuel, non-fuel. So then we have location ID. It might basically ID of the location where this store might belongs, and then we have the three different you know audit columns. When is this row inserted, if there is any update, and when is the date time of that particular receipt. So these are the audit columns that we have it. So let me just run this view, right? And now if I just do a select star, you see we have this data that is stored in the view now. Here are the few simple queries that I've used. Just can just go through it. Like basically you could just use this kind of a data to get more of a, you know sample values, and do some kind of do some chat GPT or something like that, or figure it out what all measures that we can generate from here. Like let's say if one is monthly active members, so what it is doing for each month, what is the distinct user ID that we are getting, which are active member, where user ID is not nulls, right? So that means those are the loyalty customer, and those are the active customers that we have. Similarly, this is revenue by product type, right? So if what it is doing for each product, what is the total revenue that is getting generated? So, so this is again, able to help us to figure it out. For fuel, how much is the revenue? For non-fuel, based on that particular product, how much is the revenue? Similarly, we have loyalty and anonymous, right? So for loyalty customers, what is the revenue generated? Anonymous, what is the revenue generated, right? So this is how is it is, and I think we are good for today. And we have discussed today about the transaction table. We'll go in the next session. We'll little bit go more deeper, and we'll try to understand the next part of the business, and our journey will continue. So please, till then, please do not forget to subscribe our video or our channel, like our videos, and share it with your friends, if they are also looking for these kind of projects. Thank you.